Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to the Sales Scoop. This is a weekly live show for technology business founders who want to improve how they sell. I'm Alistair Cole, your host for today. I have a bachelor's degree in computer science and artificial intelligence and 2 decades experience in sales and marketing. And I'm delighted to welcome my co-founder and co-host for the day, Kieran Gill. Hi, Kieran.
Good afternoon, Alistair. Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Kieran Gill, co-founder of the Uplift Partnership, and I've got 20 years worth of experience in B2B sales and finance.
Thank you, my friend. And we've got an exciting topic on our hands today, helping businesses understand the steps they need to go on to move from seed funding to Series A, and crucially closing that Series A round, which is a really big deal. And we're talking about, it's about demonstrating that you've found, sustainable, ongoing, growing product market fit. You've got to show people people really care about what you've built, and the business is flourishing. And to get to Series A, you've got to have made so much progress traveling down the path from a kind of good idea to a great business. The challenge is, that all sounds very easy. It's pretty tough out there at the moment, isn't it, for people looking for investment?
Yeah, it is, Alistair. It's been a brutal 2024. I think last year when we had a conversation about this, just around about Sifted or around that time, there was a lot of optimism in the market. People are expecting interest rates to drop. That means more investment into companies, and things were looking like they were going to move forward, but it just didn't transpire. And 2024 went down to be one of the worst years in the last 5 when it came to investment. So underlying figures just show that there was a up to 30% decrease in investment from 2023. That's massive if you think about it. In the UK tech kind of end part of things, we were looking around about 12.4 billion worth of investment. Again, that was down 25% on 2023. Yeah. So it was brutal. If you were looking for investment last year, there was a good chance you probably didn't get it.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds quite bleak, but there are a lot of businesses out there that are managing to get there. We've seen. I had a quick look on Crunchbase over the last few days to see who has been closed Series A in the last 30 days, and 5 there in the last. These are the last 30 days, actually, not 90 of who's closed. Storm Harvester there in the middle, who raised 8.4 million for their Series A, and their AI-powered water management software. Going great guns. And interestingly, when you look at the press release, Mike Clark, a partner at YFM Equity, that led the investment into Storm Harvester, it's no surprise that actually in his quote about one of the reasons they've gone in investing in them is their positioning in the marketplace, right? And this is effectively a kind of part of their sales function. And not only were they first to market, but they've managed to maintain that leading position. They're stimulating demand from potential buyers and now looking to expand. So investment is being made at that Series A level, but it's challenging to get to. And I think one of the early questions that we want to cover off is types of funding that are available to startups and businesses that are looking to grow. And this is much more your area of expertise than mine, my financial friend. But we've tried to simplify it and lay it out. Do you want to just talk through these early funding rounds, Kieran, and your view on them?
Yeah, so if you depending on where your company is, you're going to be in one of these 3 phases. If you're listening to us today, hopefully you might be even further down the line. But if you're looking around the pre-seed market, that means you developed your product. It probably hasn't gone to market fully. You're still looking for product market fit. You might be turning over some money. That would be great if you are. But if you're probably not, it might be early stages for you and you're looking for that pre-seed funding. So you're still trying to figure out whether this product is going to go to the market and is going to make a difference. Then you move up to seed. This is where realistically you do understand where you do fit in the market. You understand who your potential customers are. You understand how big the market is. You understand the competition, and you have a very clear understanding of what you're going to do in the next 3 years, 5 years on growing this company and how to do it. And that's what we would expect a company in seed to know. How are we going to do ourselves? How are we going to be able to make the money that we need to make? How do we keep our customers? How do we make sure that we hit all the metrics that our investors expect? And finally, Series A, that means you're going great guns by this time. You've gone through those early periods. You understand your market. You've got yourself a good market share and you're growing. And this is where you're going into that market and you're saying, hey, investors, give me more money. Let me accelerate. This is where I'm really going to hit the ground running.
Thank you. I mean, that's incredibly helpful to lay it out clearly like that. And, the purpose of this show is to help founders demonstrate their growth, right? And in order to move up to that Series A column. And it's one thing to have changed, to have grown as a business, culturally with your people, and also financially with the sales numbers. But demonstrating it is a different kettle of fish, and we see a lot of founders struggling to articulate their growth and demonstrate that. And one relatively simple way, but there's a lot of detail under the surface, is through investment metrics. And there are a lot of these terms that you'll have heard, lots of jargon here, CAC, customer acquisition cost, churn rate. What on here kind of floats your boat, Kieran?
The first thing I would always look at is customer acquisition costs, or annual turnover is the one, isn't it? It's the AAR. What is the annual recurring revenue for the business itself? What really makes you think about how much are you turning over? So is the business actually making some money? And then it would be customer acquisition costs for me, because that point you need to understand how much does it cost you to actually bring a client in. Because if it's costing you to bring a lot, if you're spending a lot of money on trying to bring clients in and your turnover is high and your costs are high, then you're not a profitable business. And again, this is all things that an investor, whether it's an angel, a VC, private equity, a bank, your mum and dad, whoever it is, they should be asking those questions.
Yeah, absolutely. And so look, there's a plethora of metrics there. They are really important. We've picked out, I think, 5 that we want to cover that we think are the most important for Series A investors that we're going to dive into a little bit now. And we're going to start with annual recurring revenue, which is absolutely critical. We're talking about demonstrating, sustainable growth, sustainable income. Really, it's so important. It's demonstrating that there is a solid business there moving forward. You touched on it already. We're leading with it. It's the most important thing they're going to look at. Sure, monthly recurring revenue is important, but you're going to get seasonal, quarterly, monthly fluctuation. So ARR really is really important. Have you got any more thoughts on that, Kieran? We talked a little bit about it, but how would you expand?
It's looking at how your business is growing over a period of time, over years. So normally, if you're a startup, you've been in business for a good few years, and your ARR will basically show a story. What kind of growth do you have? Is it double digit? Is it triple digit? You could go crazy here. But what kind of growth patterns have you had over the last 3, 4, 5 years to get to the point where you're going to Series A and where you're asking for some serious cash here? People want to be able to tell a story from your numbers. So that's why it's so important. Yeah, we can go granular, just as you said, Alistair. We can go to monthly to understand what the seasonal changes are. But what's really important for me too is understanding, are you double-digit growth on the business year on year? And that's the first headline metric, isn't it? It's the first thing I would look at, is what are you turning over? Are you hitting those kind of numbers, or are you've got this, oh yeah, we're only turning over 250,000, but we're asking for X. I'll be like, oh, hold on, you need to have a look at this.
Yeah, I mean, it's about those customers annually, and we see some businesses struggling at this stage, struggling to convince investors because they're not able to, demonstrate there is that predictable revenue, right, at a substantial scale. And when you can't demonstrate that, that is going to lead inevitably to, concerns about long-term viability for investors that are going to be investing that level of money, and often that happens with earlier stage startups. So, larger businesses struggle less with that, obviously, but being able to demonstrate that and show the fine detail, absolutely critical. So that's number one. The second of our 5 is activation rate, and this is really critical. Activation rate is the number of customers that are moving in to take your product from you bringing them to the door. So sales and marketing and self-service online is able to get people to in the door of the product. The question is, do they activate? Do they perform the handful of tasks that you set out, that you define, are enough to warrant that they are now a proper customer? Often it's through onboarding, it's having used the product on a regular basis for a short period of time, maybe a couple of weeks, maybe a month if it's a SaaS platform. But there'll be some activation criteria, and investors are looking at, what is that activation rate like? You might be spending money from your seed investment to drive people to the door. If your product isn't good enough in that early stage, then the activation rate is going to be low, and they know that your onboarding isn't going to be strong enough. The third area, customer acquisition cost. How much does it cost you to get them in the door and get them on board? And I know as a cost cutting specialist, Kieran, you're always on top of our costs and our clients' costs, that CAC is a big one for you. Talk to us about how what businesses should be looking to achieve for Series A, and how do they keep their customer acquisition cost lower?
So first of all, it all depends on if you're a self-service business. That is whether you're bringing people to your actual website and you're expecting them to convert from there without actually interacting with the salesperson, or whether you have a salesperson that's within your process. So both metrics are going to be slightly different, because if you've got a salesperson involved in there, this is where it gets more expensive. And if you haven't got a salesperson involved in there, the chances are that's harder to actually then convert, because you're expecting people to convert themselves on your website. So when it comes to customer acquisition cost, the way to look at it is, how much does it cost in your sales and marketing business as a business to bring in the customers you've got so far? So this year we've turned over $1 million. How much did it cost for us in our sales and marketing? And we can break that all down from our costs. How much did we spend on sales and marketing to bring in that $1 million? That gives us a percentage kind of understanding. Now, realistically, depending on where you are, your customer acquisition costs in the early days are going to be very expensive, because you've got less customers and you're probably spending a lot of money. As time's gone on, and when we're going from C to Series A, this is where you really need to start showing professionalism to say our customer acquisition costs are this is the percentage compared to our turnover. So customer A will cost us we're going to make this much money out of them in the year. It's cost us this much to win this client in. So that's fundamental. If a client or a company can't explain to me what their customer acquisition costs are, as an investor, that's a red flag. Straight away, yeah. I would be turning around and thinking to myself, the chances are these people aren't ready for investment because they don't understand what their costs are.
Yeah, totally. And it's natural that sales and marketing costs fluctuate across the year, but it is possible. We've seen it where those costs rise, and that's not sustainable. Investment is being made in that area, the number of customers, the revenue is not generated, and that becomes too expensive. Growth is unsustainable, and investors say, your sales and marketing engine isn't functioning well enough in order to generate return, and I'm out. So customer acquisition costs, very important there. You mentioned, lifetime value and customer acquisition cost, which is in the bottom right hand corner, and obviously those two are fairly well tied together. Let's move on to the fourth really key metric, which is lifetime value. And this is absolutely critical, isn't it, my friend? We work so hard, right? Propositionally, strategically, to get customers in, lead generation, deal closing, to get them in the door. Question is how long can we keep them in order to increase profitability? What are your thoughts on how to demonstrate lifetime value and how to maximize it?
So lifetime value, this is where you're trying to show your business as being quite advanced when it comes to upsell and cross-sell, because the lifetime value of a customer will fluctuate. Now, obviously, if you've only got one product and it costs £10 a month and the client's been there for the whole year, that's quite easy to show that the lifetime value of these people. But the one thing about lifetime value is it's showing how many customers you've got and how much they've actually made over that period of time. So are you keeping your customers? So it's linked quite closely to churn rate and all of the other metrics. But again, it tells you a story. Are you keeping clients in? Are clients staying with you? Are they sticky? Are they still purchasing from you over a period of time? Or are you losing them? And the lifetime value actually isn't that much when you look at it as an average. That again is another red flag for an investor to understand where, or potentially it could be there is potential in the lifetime value here. We're seeing that underutilized. And now what we can do here with a couple of new products or different features, we can increase the lifetime value to really then build a market. Now, as an investor, that is something that I would be looking for, is how can we go into this? How will this business grow if I invest into it? Because that's why I'm giving you money.
Yeah, and I think that growth is absolutely critical. That's why lifetime value is so important. If you're not able to extend that, the length of time customers stay with you, that you talked about additional products and features, if you're not able to do that and lifetime value is short, then it's the business is not evolving and the future projections for that investor aren't going to be good enough, which is why that is an absolutely key metric, one of our big five. And then the last one, churn rate. This is the number of customers who are discontinuing their subscription, if you're talking about a SaaS model, or they're stopping using the service after a period of time. And high churn rates, obviously another big red flag for investors. I'm worried about what you might say, but what your feelings on when churn rates are high and what that's going to do to investors.
Again, look at what the market potential is. So I need to have an understanding. Again, a part of your story to your investors is going to be market opportunity within the market you're looking at, whether that's wherever it's geographical or a demographic, whatever it is. What's the market opportunity there? Now, if you're showing me a market opportunity of millions, that's fine. However, if you're showing me a high churn rate, that means you're going through your customers very, very quickly, or your potential customers. Now, that's a red flag for me straight away. Yeah. Now, where should the number be? Rule of thumb, your churn rate should be around about 5 to 8% if you're looking for investment. Any higher, then we're talking this is turning into a problem. Why are we losing customers? Again, this could be something a product or a new product or a new feature might be able to stem it, and that might be a part of your story to get investment. Hey, if you're going to give me this money, part of our kind of strategy for the next 5 years is to do this to bring our churn rate down. But remember, once you start giving investors promises that that's where you're going to do, that's what they're going to hang you by. Because I'll come back to you and say to you, well, have you invested? Where's the money? What's the churn rate now? Show me it. Has it come down? Where's this new product line? What has it done? Have we retained more customers this year than last year? Are we bringing customers in? And then that links back into lifetime value, and then it comes back into ARR, and all these other different things.
Yeah, and we're going to get onto it in a little bit later in the show. But what we're talking about is, in order to give yourself the best chance of hitting those promises that you've made, if it's about reducing churn rate, then you need to have a more mature sales function, right? A more mature sales engine that is more predictable, that you know you're on target for that reduction, rather than kind of crossing your fingers and hoping it's going to happen. And we see businesses with high churn rates, and often it's a result of a mismatch between what's been promised, right, in the sales and marketing engine or sales and marketing machine, and what happens when they arrive and they go through activation. There is that kind of maybe the product market fit isn't strong enough, and certainly any kind of disconnect there will lead to a high churn rate and investors worried about the long-term stability. And this is why it's the long term that's so important. It's a bigger amount of money at Series A, expecting long-term results, and you've got to have your business and your sales function ship shape and ready to navigate successfully growing the business over the next kind of 24 months. So churn rate, a really big deal. So those are our 5 key metrics for any business out there looking to try and secure Series A investment. As we mentioned earlier, there are other metrics too. There's loads of them, but those are our big 5. Those are our big 5, and I think that's great. Understanding those metrics and how you go about analyzing how the business is doing, but it's another thing entirely to be able to present and pitch that story back to investors. And at the end of the day, it's like any other kind of pitch or presentation. You're telling a story about yourself. Any tips, Kieran, for businesses gearing up to go and present or share their thoughts? Any kind of watch outs or tips you'd give them?
Each slide has to have a purpose, and you need to be telling a story from last year going into the next several years of what you're going to be doing and where you're going to be spending the money. So when I'm working with clients and we're looking at their kind of decks that they're building for their investors to go, hey, this is why we're looking for the money, my major concern tends to be is, what are the numbers? And we've spoken about those major metrics that we're looking at there. And can you prove those metrics? Because that's where I'm going to try to trip you up if I don't want to give you money, or I'm going to end up giving you less money. And then how are you going to be spending the money? So it has to tell a story. The deck has to tell a story, and you've got to keep me engaged. And the way I always look at these things is, if I look at that deck, does it make sense to me? And if I was going to invest into my company, would I invest into my own company off the back of that deck?
Yeah. No, it makes perfect sense. The importance of really clear, specific, and accurate data, cannot be stressed enough, right? The presentation or whatever format you're delivering it in, it's got to be tailored to that audience. You've got to have done your research like you would do on any other presentation about who's going to be in the room, what's going to float their boat, and mixing data visualizations and hard figures with hard growth numbers, but also soft growth numbers as well. How your business has changed as a culture, how the operations have changed, as well as just the sales side. So you're telling a much broader story about how the business has evolved over the last 24 months and how it's going to evolve again over the following 24 months if you get that investment. And it's okay for the story not to be 100% rosy. Not every technology business, not every startup is perfect, and investors know this. The ones we talk to say that you need to have most of your metrics there, but it's okay if there are a few hiccups. And actually, that's why they're giving you the money. That investment is going to be used to proactively address areas of improvement. So as a founder, when you're pitching, you've got to explain your plan. It's okay to show where things are deficient. You've got to showcase the future plans, the leadership that's going to tackle that, and the kind of the power that you've got in terms of solving problems and evolving your business to the next level. So that presentation area, really, really important. One thing we've talked about before, my friend, was kind of practical advice, certainly for SaaS businesses and lower priced products. Is there anything any kind of practical advice you'd like to share as we start to wrap up the show? Any takeaways?
Yeah, the major thing, and I think we picked on this before in times past, where where if we look at it from understanding your sales model, making sense that what your customer acquisition costs are has to make sense. So if you're selling something that is very, very low priced, but you have a very expensive sales process or a very complicated sales process, that's again is going to be something that's probably going to trip you up very early on in your sale, very early on in your funding. By the time you've got to seed and Series A, you should know where you're going with this. Yeah. So the investment will be into your website. If you're a SaaS business that's doing self-service, you know how to bring your customers in and you know how to retain them. So just think about, and for those of you who are running businesses that aren't got to Series A yet and you're moving through the phases, think to yourself, where are we taking this? Yes, at the moment we're doing self-service, but it's heavily involving people. We know where we need to go. And this is, do you have an understanding of what your roadmap is over the next 12 months and how do you get there?
Yeah, and that detail, the roadmap detail, the due diligence that needs to be done in your business in order to get to Series A, that can all be underscored and professionalized by building out the maturity of your sales engines. A lot of our clients, one in particular recently, has said that the work we did with them on their playbook and off the back of our 360 sales diagnostic was, quote, sealed the deal with the investors because they felt like there was a robust, mature sales function in place after working with us. And that rigor for us starts with our 360 sales diagnostic product, which analyzes your business in 7 core areas. We have 52 metrics plus 10 sales figures that we use to produce that 360 score. You get a breakdown of the 7 areas and an overall score for your business, recommendations in the 7 areas of immediate crucial next steps, and a revenue roadmap that charts the additional income that your business will be able to generate by implementing the recommendations into your sales function. So if you're looking for rigor in sales ahead of investment, the 360 sales diagnostic could be good for you. You can see more of that at theupliftpartnership.com. Something else that has just dropped recently, our new white paper, the Empowered Founder Seller. It's just 12 pages short and packed with 60 actionable steps you can take in order to become or feel more empowered as a founder seller. And I'll leave the QR code up there briefly, obscuring my friend, so that's down now, mate. So you can get the white paper at theupliftpartnership.com/white paper. And as we're wrapping up the show, really all that's left to do is talk about what's coming next. A week today, I'll be chatting with Louise Ballard, who is the co-founder of Athene.ai. Louise is on a mission to supercharge AI literacy for businesses and also for students. And her platform that she's building at the moment is very exciting, putting the guardrails on a plethora of AI potential for businesses and other areas. So looking forward to chatting to Louise a week today on the future of AI and boosting AI literacy. If you enjoyed today's show and you're keen to watch or recordings back on others, you can head over to thesalescoop.com, where you can get recordings of all of our previous 35 shows we've done now, Kieran. 35 live shows. What a journey. it's been in 2024.
It was a journey, definitely.
It was a journey, and no doubt 2025 is going to be even more successful. So all that's left for me to do is to say thank you, Kieran. Thanks for your time and expertise.
Thank you very much, Alistair. Not a problem.
And you and I will be back in a fortnight, topic TBC, but we'll be sharing that. Thanks very much for your time, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Bye for now.
Bye for now.